In this video, we're going to look at how to use trigonometry to find the angle inside of a triangle. Finding the angle, let's call it. Let's draw a triangle so that we can test out this method. Here is a right-angled triangle, and as usual we can tell it's right-angled because of the little box in the corner. And now we're given two of the sides. We're given that this side is, let's say, 6.7 centimeters down here, and this side is 8.9 centimeters. And our challenge is to find the angle here. Let's call it x degrees. How would we find the angle? Well, first, as always with trigonometry, we need to label our sides. What are the two sides that we have? The 6.7 side, it's touching the angle and it's also touching the right angle. So it must be the adjacent. This is the adjacent side. 8.9, that side, is the longest side and it's also opposite the right angle. So that must be the hypotenuse. Which relationship in SOHCAHTOA, and as a reminder that stands for sine equals opposite divided by hypotenuse, cosine equals adjacent divided by hypotenuse, and tangent equals the opposite divided by the adjacent, which of those involves the adjacent and the hypotenuse? That would be cosine, or cos for short. So what we write is cos, then the angle. Many students forget to write the angle. They just write cos. But it's cos, then the angle, and then also many students stop here and are not sure what to do. But we need to write out the full relationship. What does cos equal? It equals the adjacent divided by the hypotenuse. Now we could write that, or we can skip straight to writing what the adjacent and hypotenuse is. The adjacent is 6.7 and the hypotenuse is 8.9. So cos of x equals 6.7 divided by 8.9. Let's first find out what that is before we go on to the next step. Using our calculator, we can say that 6.7 divided by 8.9 is 0.7528. So we can write 0.7528. But now what do? This is the number one situation that students get confused and lost about. They divide the two numbers, but then they get stuck. Some students try typing in cos of that. So it would be cos of answer. And they get 0.99999 or something very close to 1. And they get really confused. The thing is, when we're looking for the angle, we have to ask the calculator an extra special question. We're not just going to type in the angle cos of this. We're asking the calculator, can you tell me what the angle is? So here's what you do. You do shift or second function, and that will always tend to be in the top left hand corner of your calculator, often in yellow. So shift or second function, cos. And on almost all calculators, if you just press shift and second function, then the cos button, that will get you this cos to the minus 1. Don't worry too much about the minus 1. It basically means the inverse of cos. As in, we don't have the angle. Can you tell me the angle, please? So cos to the minus 1 of 0.7528. And that gives us the angle. We can't just type in cos. We have to type in shift or second function cos. Cos to the minus 1. And that equals 41.17 degrees. 41.17 degrees. There we go, we've found out what x is. That was a little tricky, so let's have a go at another one. Here we have another triangle. just to flip it, just to confuse you. And it's a right angle triangle. And we have two sides here. So we have this side as being 6.7 again. Let's do 61 kilometers. And the side along here is 52 kilometers. And we have to find the angle down here. Let's call it y degrees. You might be wondering, wouldn't perhaps Pythagoras work in this situation? Pythagoras never works to find the angle. You can tell it's not going to be Pythagoras and it has to be trigonometry because there's an angle involved. Whenever there's an angle involved, it's going to be trigonometry. What's the first step always in trigonometry? You might even write it down just so we can remember. First step, label the sides. So let's label our two sides. The 61 kilometers, that's far away from the angle on the opposite side. So it would be the opposite. The 52 kilometers, that's touching the angle and it's also touching the right angle. So that must be the adjacent. In this case, we have the opposite and adjacent. So which relationship involves the opposite and adjacent? Is it sine, cosine, or tangent? If you said tangent, well done, because tangent is the opposite divided by the adjacent. Step 3 is write out the equation. Write out the equation in full, because many students just do a part of it. Okay, let's do that. Tan equals, but wait, just wanted to check that you were following along. We always have to do tan then the angle. So tan of y equals tanny, it's quite funny, equals the opposite divided by adjacent. The opposite is 61 and the adjacent is 52. So tanny equals 61 divided by 52. Get our calculator and let's do 61 divided by 52. And that equals 1.17. 1.173. Let's write that down. Now what do? The last step when we're trying to find the angle, is it to type in tan of 1.173? Is it to give up? Nope. It's to do the shift tan, or second function tan. So we do shift, then tan, or cos or sine, whichever the case is, and the number. And that will give us the answer. So let's do that. Shift tan of answer equals 49.55. So the angle y equals 49.55 degrees. There we have it. We've used SOHCAHTOA and this magical method of finding the angle to do some amazing trigonometry.